Hi, my name is Amy Hillier, and I am a teacher at the University of Pennsylvania. So I do the same kinds of things that teachers in high schools and middle schools do to some extent. But this spring I've had to teach all of my classes online. So that's been an adventure. I bet some of you have been introduced to Zoom and Blue Jeans and other online platforms like that. So I've had to figure out how to teach my students, even students who are in China or Pakistan or West Virginia or California or just here in Philadelphia. So that's been exciting. So I was trained to be a teacher by going to graduate school. So I went through college and I studied American history. And then in graduate school, I studied social work. And social work is one of those degrees where you can do a lot of different things. So some people who are social workers work directly with students and with kids and with families to support families who are going through hard times. And some of them work on laws and legislation and building leading organizations. I happen to be use my social work degree to be a teacher. So I teach social work students for the most part, and I teach them different things. But one of the things I do is teach them how to make maps, geographic information systems, GIS. So if any of you have used Google Maps before, then you've been introduced to GIS. So GIS is just a way of bringing data, putting information, so that we see where things are related according to space. So we're used to seeing in Google Maps, we can say, okay, well, where is a sushi restaurant that's open on a Sunday night that does delivery during the COVID pandemic? That might be one of the questions. So we ask these kinds of questions all the time to figure out how to get places and to find the resources that we need. We look at maps in terms of weather to see when the storms are coming. The kinds of maps I make are a little bit different. So some of you probably seen the maps that show where the most cases of COVID are, and where you can go and get tested. And which hospitals have the most people that are there for care. The kinds of maps that I make I make maps of things like grocery stores. So where do people go to the supermarket? And you might think, okay, well, everybody goes to the supermarket. They probably go to the supermarket closest to them. Well, actually, they don't. So that's one of the things we ask people: where do you go to the supermarket? And some people might go to the Acme, and some people might go to the fresh grocer, and some people might go to Whole Foods. And people don't always go to the closest store for lots of different reasons. But I'm interested in those reasons, not just because I'm curious, but because I'm concerned about equity. I'm concerned about if people have a chance to get access to the groceries at the price that they can afford, and at a distance that they can get to. So some people have a car, and so it might not matter if you have to travel 10 miles or 1 mile, but some people will rely on the bus. So can people who rely on the bus still get to the grocery store? Can they still use their SNAP or their food stamp benefits there? Can they get healthy food, or is it just a place where they can get junk food, which, everybody likes a little bit of junk food, but not have a ridiculous amount. We can make maps of libraries. So that's something that my students like to do. Are the libraries close to the schools? So if public schools don't have libraries, can the kids walk to the library? What about libraries that are open on Saturday? What about rec centers? So a lot of these different things in terms of resources, the kinds of things that we all want to have close to us. I also map where people live according to race and poverty, and see, are people able to live in the places that they want? We can look at things like segregation, which is when people are forced to live separately because they're poor, or because they're people of color, as opposed to white people. We can map congressional districts, like where people are going to go to vote, to the voting poll, and in terms of representatives, who represents us in Congress, and redistricting that happens every time the census. We count how many people live in the census. We redistrict. That affects schools. All this kind of stuff. So I teach people how to use software. It's a little bit trickier to teach them to do that online, but I've figured out ways, and I make little videos like this that say, hey, this is how you do this, and follow along, and I grade homework. And the students that I have go on to do all kinds of neat things. So most of them get a master's degree in social work, or a master's degree in in social policy, and they go on to work for government agencies, for nonprofit organizations, for schools, for school districts, for international corporations, where they do all this kind of mapping. So next time you're looking at the newspaper or searching a website, take a look at the maps a little bit more carefully, and maybe you'll appreciate a little bit more about what I do.